All right, y'all. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you're tuning in. I'm grateful to have you here. And we got the extremely popular Joe Rogan in the building today. And apparently even he wasn't familiar with Thomas Sowell for most of his life. And hey, I know the feeling, bro. I've been there. Not long ago, I was ignorant of the knowledge from the genius scholar himself. So this should be a fun one. Let's get it popping.
So do you know Thomas Sowell?
I know that name. Why do I know that name?
Thomas Sowell is a big, famous conservative. He's at Stanford. He's at the Hoover Institute, I think. Anyway, so, within this, first, just to set all of this up, we should set up briefly, how does culture work, right? And the way culture works is that it, like genetic evolution, it works based on blind copying. So what ends up happening is that you are in awe of people, right? You look up to people. And so you blindly copy the things they do. And specifically, you start by blindly copying from the outside, and then you work in. Thomas Sowell is a black guy, right? Okay. And Thomas Sowell has for years and years and years been trying to fight racism. But he's been trying to fight racism by having a conversation about culture. Right. And the fact that there are essentially two different sort of, we're speaking broadly here. Right. But this is for the purposes of communication. We're going to tell a simple story to start off with. Right. So broadly speaking, he puts two different cultures of people with dark skin next to each other. And one culture is these people from the West Indies. And one culture is this group of people who grew up in the South with slavery and all that sort of stuff. Now, what one group, the West Indies group, does really well. So a lot of the successful black people like Colin Powell, are originally from that cultural heritage. The other group is the group that you find in ghettos and African-American communities and all of that sort of stuff. They don't do well, right? They don't get good education. They, shoot each other. There are all these sorts of things. And the reason why Sowell has been telling this story is because he's been trying to say, when liberals look at the people in ghettos, they say, racism. That's why they're not succeeding. And Sowell is saying, no, it's not. Because if you look at this group from the West Indies, they also came from the experience of slavery. There was slavery in the West Indies. They are also black, so they also face racism, and yet they do well. So it has to be something else.
The oppression lies.
And that other thing is the fact that these black people who are in the South, there's always been a big question, were black people robbed of their culture, or did they preserve their authentic African culture? And what Sowell is saying is that they were robbed of their culture, and so they picked up the culture of the people around them, and the people around them were rednecks. And if you look at the white redneck culture and the black redneck culture,
Thomas has a book.
They have a lot of the same values. They don't particularly respect education. They love Jesus. They use violence in their conflicts, and there's just, a lot of the same values and a lot of the same outcomes. And even Ebonics, which is, Black English, is actually all from the west of England. So it's actually this...
What?
It's from the west of England. So, for example, if you go to places like Cornwall, there used to be this amazing ads on British TV, right, for this Devin custard or whatever, and they would always say, Devin knows how they make it so creamy, and they all talk like this, Devin, right? And so it doesn't sound like Black English, but they do say things like...
Hold on, I know this is completely irrelevant, but what is Devin custard? My name's Devin Gibson. I'm just wondering, is that a derogatory name? What are they describing? Y'all let me know in the comments if he doesn't clearly break it down for me.
So they make it so creamy, and they all talk like this, right? And so it doesn't sound like Black English, but they do say things like, I be doing that, and we be doing this, and you be doing that, and they be doing that. And so there's that use of that copula be, right? Where instead of saying I am, you are, he is, she is, they are.
We be doing.
They just say I be, you be, we be, they be, which is the classic feature of Black English, African-American.
This be bussin'.
Right. Now, the point is that...
Mind blower.
Now, let's imagine that, how do you think that Thomas Sowell has been received by liberal America? Not well. Not well. And so, for example, Sowell has a book called Black Rednecks, White Liberals. Okay? And his whole point is that, if you actually, and, again, like Sowell is, he researches the shit out of this stuff. He really does his work. Now, if you look at the experience of African Americans after slavery, they do really, they start to make real progress, right? And a large part of the reason why they make progress is because you start to get a lot of people from New England, either, black people from New England or white people from New England, who come down and sort of reshape the culture. They create these schools and they're teaching those New England values, right? It's those Puritan values of hard work, tenacity, all of that sort of stuff. And so there's all this progress. And you have people like Booker T. Washington. And Booker T. Washington was an actual slave. And then after he got his freedom, he got to go work in a salt mine, which is literally the worst job ever. And in Booker T. Washington's Up From Slavery, he tells this great story about seeing a schoolhouse, right? And that, he thought that going into a schoolhouse was about as close to heaven on earth as you could get.
Whoa.
Like, this is a dude who wanted an education really, really badly. And that's a lot of what you find in the, early black experience in, the post-slavery period. And in fact, blacks, before sort of World War II actually had higher rates of marriage than whites, all of these sorts of things that, are now supposedly a problem. And then there's this turnaround, right? The black experience starts to go south, right? It starts to get worse.
And what year is this around?
This is post-World War II, right? So,
late 40s,
so post-slavery, black people experience a rebounding.
They're starting to make some progress. There's ambition.
Progress.
Yeah. And I mean, if in terms of books to read, like, because a large part of what I'm trying to do in general is really let's move to the place of all people are created equal. Like, let's remove all these stupid distinctions, right? And really live that principle. And the problem is that in order to really live that principle, you need a new narrative that beats slavery. So, it's not, if you go and talk to racists, you can't just say racism is bad. Like, that doesn't destroy racism, right? What destroys racism is when you make sense of the things that they know, right? They see, people who are violent in the ghettos, or they see crime, or they see a lack of education, or they see that Africa is poor. And you're able to tell a better story that makes sense of the things that they know, but also comes out with the conclusion, oh, we actually all have the same potential.
Spot on. Spot on. Now, I know some people say Thomas Sowell can be kind of radical sometimes, but there's no denying his intelligence and his experience. He's a black man, and he's not buying into that false rhetoric that people like to paint the picture of today, that black people have a disadvantage just because how they're born. It's not that way at all. And he recognizes that, and he just points out the falseness and the fake realities that people push on the media and all over the place. It's not that. It's really not operating like that in the real world when you get out there and see how it goes. You just got to be willing to sweat more, grind more, and really just own up and have some personal accountability for the things that you want to say you want to achieve. And nobody's locking people up based on their skin tone. Nobody's holding you down in your job or your marriage or whatever it may be. If you believe in marriage, if you're not out there trying to marry as many or sleep with as many women and men as possible, you got to handle your business. You got to look in the mirror and be the best person you could be. And if you don't fear God, if you don't live your life based on the foundations in the Bible, if you keep building your life on faulty, sandy foundations, no wonder when somebody says something to you or something is painted on the media that everything comes crashing down, that you buy into it, that you feel like a victim, that you blame everybody else for your situations and your outcomes. When you really just got to own up, take a deep breath and say, you know what? I got this. God's given me all the tools. He's blessed me and all the things around me to do whatever it is that I want to do. And if I fail, that's on me. Yes, you'll fail at certain things, but you got to fail forward. You got to keep it pushing. Joe didn't get to where he's at based on his skin tone. Joe got there because he was willing to grind it out. He was a broadcaster. I do know that. I know he was always on the UFC fights, commentating, doing a great job. Now he's the most popular podcaster, I believe, in the entire world, based on his efforts. That's what it comes down to in today's day and age. It doesn't matter what color you are, what sex you are. There's just men and women, by the way, just in case you disagree with that. That's where I stand. So we're on the same, understanding. Joe got to where he's at because he was willing to outwork everybody else. Joe got to where he's at because he was able to research and he was able to, take a unbiased perspective and say, you know what, this is what I see. I'm gonna place myself in the middle. I'm gonna see what's going on over here, and then I'm gonna make a logical decision in my opinion. And people must rock with his opinion. I'm not sure where he leans as far as politics. I'm not sure if he's a Christian. Not sure if he believes in God. I'm not sure what he believes in. But at the end of the day, the fact that he could just sit and listen to that right there, that gentleman, and take in what Thomas Sowell brings to the world, I love it. I'm always up to hear more insightful conversations and learn and grow, because you never get anywhere if you shut yourself down from knowledge. If you're not a student of life and constantly growing, no matter if you're 20, 30, 60, and you're not constantly taking in other people's experiences and what they've seen in the world and their findings, You're just going to be stuck in a box in an echo chamber, and you're never going to take a step up mentally, physically, spiritually in life. So that's what I think it's all about, listening to others' findings and what their viewpoints are, and then making your own reasonable decision, having common sense, and keep on pushing forward. And it'd be a shame if I didn't use this platform to spread the good news, because that's what I do. That's what I feel I'm here for, because it changed my life. When I stopped walking on the left, when I stopped, not even just the left, when I stopped walking in the false reality that somebody was holding me down, that I needed the government to take care of me, and that anything else was stopping me but myself and what God had in store for me, that Holy Spirit working in me. That's when things really changed for me, when I stopped thinking that way. And I have to spread the biblical soul food, because all this racism talk, you can label whatever it is in society, whatever mainstream headline you want to. But at the end of the day, if you're not basing your foundation in good, godly values, good luck. I'm just saying, because the path has already been set for you. Why wouldn't you want to lean on Jesus? He took on the cross for all the evil in the world. We're all flawed. I acknowledge that I'm flawed. That's what Christianity is, acknowledging that you're not perfect and be willing to get better, be willing to accept the love, the ultimate eternal love of Jesus Christ, and spread that on to other people. Share the good news and lift people up, not just tear down and label all these things, these unimportant details that are really irrelevant, because we all come from the same people. We all come from the same creed, and we all bleed the same color red. So I got to share it for you, because all this, at the end of the day, unimportant. 2 Peter 3, verses 11 through 14. I'm reading the ESV version, English Standard Version, from the Bible, Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth, 66 books. I encourage you to dive into it. Changed my life. Since all these things are thus to be dissolved, what sort of people ought you to be in lives of holiness and godliness, waiting for and hastening the coming of the day of God, because of which the heavens will be set on fire and dissolved, and the heavenly bodies will melt as they burn. But according to his promise, we are waiting for new heavens and a new earth, in which righteousness dwells. Therefore, beloved, since you are waiting for these, be diligent to be found by him without spot or blemish and at peace. So all of this is washing away. All of this, there's going to be a new earth and a new heaven. Human race isn't going to exist someday. You may not believe in the same thing, but I do. I'm putting all my eggs in that basket, because without that, there's no reason to exist. There's no reason for any of this stuff to go on. So I'm putting all my faith in Jesus Christ. I'm putting all my faith that there is a better world after this, and just waiting for it. That isn't wasted time. We all have a purpose. You're here for a reason. The simple fact that you're watching this video, that you have a breath, that you have your own genetic set of DNA that nobody else can duplicate. You can chop off whatever parts on the outside you want to, but at the end of the day, you're either a man or a woman. You can't change the internals. Y'all know I got to get that in there. God gives us everything we need to live a life of righteousness. So what should you do? Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, your soul, your mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's Matthew 22, verse 37 through 39. So no matter what the world tries to tell you, life is always better on the inside of God's boundaries. So you may want to dive into that fleshly sin and temptation. You may fall off the rocker, but it's never too late to fall back onto God. The great news is you don't have to go wandering off. You don't have to stay wandered off and stranded out in the abyss. God always provides you with a choice. You either choose to buy into this culture, this chaotic thing that we're living in today, or you go the godly way. You be different. You stand up for what you know to be right and the real values that God created us all to live in. So either continue to walk that path of sin or turn and face Jesus. Y'all make the call, but let me know anything I need to know about Joe down below, or the other gentleman. I would love to know his name. Thomas Sowell, y'all know it. I respect the heck out of that man. That dude is the truth. Comment your thoughts below. We can be civil and we can still disagree. That's the beautiful thing about freedom of speech and in this whole social media world we're living in. We all got a few opinions. Everybody's got a few of them like elbows. You know what I'm saying? We got 2 elbows. That means a few. So share your thoughts down below. That's how we continue to just hear other thoughts. I might not agree with you, but I can still respect that you're entitled to an opinion. That's what the world needs more of nowadays, more discussion and not any more bashing, belittling, and beating people upside the head because they got their own thought process. Learn to think for yourself. Don't learn to think like other people tell you to think. I'm just saying, but outside of that, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date on all my videos. Share this video, whether you agree with my take on it, you disagree with it, you don't like Joe, myself, or Thomas Sowell, you probably don't want to share it then, but hey, you never know. If you want to support the channel, you can always tap the thanks button, has a little heart next to it, buy me a coffee, join the Patreon family, donate on PayPal. You don't got to do any of that stuff at all. All my links are down below in the description section. Products I use, Gibby gear, all the stuff is in Linktree and anything you can find in my description. If you got questions, you need prayer, whatever it may be, you can always get a hold of me, Devin at dgibson.com. Shout out to Joe and his crew again. I love y'all. Godspeed. I'm gone.